Welcome to the Nick Blevins Family Ministry Podcast. Our goal is to help you maximize your church's potential. You'll hear from top leaders in children's, student, and family ministry about the principles and practices they use. Now here's your host, Nick Blevins.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 58 of the podcast. In this episode, I interview Joe Crabb. Joe's the student pastor at Woodside Bible Church. And if you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, or maybe you went back and just listened to some previous episodes, in episode 14, I interviewed EJ Swanson. And EJ and Joe worked together on staff of the same church. In episode 14, EJ and I talked about how to teach students and some practical tips to do that, and leading next-gen ministry, which is EJ's job there. And Joe's role is he's the student pastor for all the locations of Woodside Bible. They're a large church with many locations, both small and large, so they have to pull off student ministry in different contexts. And what we talk about in this interview is a summer plan that they kind of put in place a few years ago. They realized, you know what? Students have more free time in the summer than they do any other time. And that's when we pull back, and most of us do this, pull back our ministry programming, and we don't have a lot going on. So they decided to change that up a little bit. Joe walks through what that plan was, how they've tweaked it over the last couple of years to make it even better. And he actually shared some documents that could be helpful. If you want to download those, you can get them in the show notes at nickblevins.com/episode 58. And it's basically documents that include the vision, some of the specific how-to, and what they were going for. It's what they gave their campus student pastors to help them understand the vision for this summer plan and how to pull it off. So you can get all that in the show notes. But let's go ahead now and jump into my interview with Joe about their summer plan for student ministry. Well, I'm talking with Joe Crabb of Woodside Bible Church. Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's a joy to be here with you.
How about you introduce us to yourself a little bit, you and your family and your church, even though we have had EJ Swanson on the podcast. I don't remember what episode, but so we've heard about Woodside before on the podcast. But again, just kind of give us an introduction of you and the church, and then we'll jump in and talk about some student ministry stuff.
No, definitely would love to. Yeah. So, name is Joe, and married to my beautiful wife, Robin, actually about to celebrate our 4th wedding anniversary here. We do not have any kids, but we do have an adorable cat named DW, which I didn't know I was a cat person until I got married. So I'll take that in stride.
Yeah. But the question is, are you really a cat person now, or are you accepting of a cat person now?
I've learned to love and accept. We are very blessed, and I grew up with a bunch of animals, and so I kind of grew lethargic with some of them and having to clean up after them and so on. But she's actually pretty neat, very low maintenance and everything. So yeah, I don't think it's prepared me for having children yet, because I know usually people get puppies because they take a lot more work. The cat, I don't think it's going to be anything like having a kid one day. So.
Yeah. Well, hopefully a child, I mean, I guess you would already know if you do this, but a child's probably not going to give you allergies at least. So
yes,
there is that plus. You know. So
that hasn't began to spread.
There's another problem if you have that. You know, sometimes I think I'm allergic to my kids, but not most days. Most days it's great. So I guess it depends on whether or not they're moody, they've had food, and if they're tired and all that. So anyway,
that could be an emerging excuse that people begin using. I think I might be just allergic to my kids. Can you take them for the day?
I can't have kids because I'm allergic to them. I don't want them. You know, that's somebody leads with that, like in a relationship or something.
You know that somebody out there has probably tried to do that at some point.
Probably. That would be a good warning sign, though, I guess. Yes, if you're the other person.
This is your son.
By the way, the name DW, does it mean something? That's an interesting name.
It is from the PBS show Arthur. So
okay.
My wife grew up loving that show, and so she named her DW. I think it stands for Dora Winifred. That's what it stands for in Arthur. And when I want people to think that I'm a crazy cat person, I just tell them it stands for Dr. Whiskers. So
nice.
Then they're like,
that's awesome. That's cool. I figured that name was from something, not just unique. That's cool.
Yeah, not just thrown together there, but yeah. So we serve together at Woodside, and I've been here, as I shared with you earlier. I've been here since I was 10, and so this is my home. I've been on staff here for the last 7 years at Woodside. I served in middle school ministry there specifically for a while, and then for the last 2 years, I've had the privilege and blessing of being the lead student pastor. So leading at the Troy campus here. with our middle school and high school students, overseeing our staff here and pastoring those two ministries, as well as overseeing and leading our team across the other 13 campuses, resourcing, equipping, encouraging them, as well as working alongside their campus pastors to see their student ministries continue to grow as they shepherd and faithfully lead accordingly. So, yeah, that's the long and short of what I do there. But yeah.
Cool. And it's always unique to be able to serve the church you grew up in. Like we were talking about before we recorded, that's just a fun privilege, and always positive and negatives with everything, but that's still unique to be able to see that history. You said you're graduating a class of students now that you've been with, the whole time you've been on staff, which is really cool. That's awesome.
It puts things in perspective. I think that's a huge thing, that God has allowed me to sit in this very interesting seat in which I can kind of see the breadth of a student's life here, and just know their families and their families know me, and be rooted here. And so very grateful. This last year has been very filled with a lot of perspective and growth in ministry, with this kind of season coming to an end here, of thinking that, if God allows, what would the next 7 years look? What would this sixth grade class that we just have look like for them when they graduate in 2024, I think, or 2023. So.
Yeah, that's a quick math. Like, hold on, wait a minute. Let's see. Yeah, as long as they get through each grade, of course.
Yeah, that's true. Each their own.
Yep, that's right. So we're going to talk about summer programming, some unique stuff you've done in the last few years to change that up. A lot of student ministries are similar in that they might take a break for the summer or pull back in a lot of ways. So, but before we do that, can you give us a picture of like what a normal, like what's the strategy of student ministry at Woodside Bible? Meaning, what's the normal year look like? What's it involve weekly, trips, things like that? What do you do in a year?
Yeah, no, definitely. So, middle school and high school broken up, grade specific there, 6th through 8th grade for middle school, 9th through 12th for high. And we run small groups, September through May. Our middle school small groups meet on Wednesday evenings, and high school meets on Thursday evenings. Times for worship, for games, for announcements, for good stuff like that, and obviously diving into God's Word together, and then heading into small groups. So we meet predictably throughout the school year. Groups are broken up primarily by grade, gender, and somewhat region. We use the church as the center of the compass there, and from there go out north, south, east, and west. It works very well in middle school to kind of give some parameters and give opportunities for students to build relationships and connect with one another. They stay in the same groups as they move into high school, but a little bit more lax in regards to if a student desires to change to a different group because of the relationships and connections they have there with them. And, we meet with them, we have conversations with them, we challenge them and encourage them accordingly. But ultimately, if, in those conversations, what seems to fit best would be to switch them to another group. We are always more than willing to do that. But, some great, phenomenal small group leaders as well. We couldn't do anything, nor would we want to do it without our SGLs. And so, we do a fall retreat for our high school students, winter retreats for our middle school students. Exciting this past year because we had to split our winter retreat into 2 weekends, back to back. A set amount of our campuses went one weekend and the others the next, and just awesome just to see how God's worked and grown through those throughout the years, and just all sorts of other fun stuff from campus specific main events that we do. To multi-campus ones that we do. Our middle school ministry name is Oasis. And so this past November, we've done this before, but we did something called Glowasis, which is a huge, black light, neon night, party. It's just a lot of fun. And we did for our high school students a lip sync battle in which we raised money for our partnership with Hope in Haiti, and adopting the village of Turpin there, as we sent a team of students every spring break to go and work in that village. And so a lot of great, neat, exciting stuff. Love, in middle school, continuing to equip them, and inspire them and help them find their roles and giftedness within the church and outside the church. It's a lot of firsts for a middle school student in student ministries, first retreat, first mission trip, and want to see that continue to grow in high school, through new and challenging experiences, but also in giving them ownership of the ministry. I share with my leaders at the beginning of the year. I remember growing up and when we would go to like Target or Meijer, and my mom would run in real quick because she just had to grab something and she'd be right out. And then about a half hour later, we were still sitting in the car bored, wondering where mom was at. Yeah. And so dad would take us around to the backside of the store, and me and my siblings would take turns hopping on his lap and just driving the car or pretending to drive the car. You know, you're 7 or 8 and you have your hands on the steering wheel and you can't really touch the pedals, and you're kind of steering and directing. Dad's really the one in control. And I just challenge our leaders this year with the thought that I think too often we do that with students as well, where they get to the point when I'm 16 or 17 and I can drive a car, it look weird if I'm hopping on my dad's lap and he's still trying to drive the car. You got to switch seats. You got to let them take the wheel. And it might be scary, as I'm sure for many parents, it's been scary that first time that your son or daughter has got behind the wheel of the car and you're sitting in that passenger seat. But you're there to help direct them, to guide them. When they miss that left turn, to say, go down another mile and you can take the next one, and watch out. You need to put your blinker on and so on. But, you do that to prepare and equip them to take that ownership, to take that wheel, to really drive their own faith. And so it's been exciting to see as leaders have given students more and more ownership, of saying, hey, you take the wheel, you sit in this seat. I'm going to sit here next to you and help lead and guide you through this. So we've done a few things this past year and owned the nights, and I know a lot of others out there have done similar things, whether they're by schools. We did ours by grade with our context and dynamic. It worked a little bit better to have our freshmen own an entire night here than our sophomores and juniors and so on. So yeah, that's kind of the long and short, and maybe a metaphor or analogy in there or two that you guys can steal to use. So yeah.
And so you, I probably should know this already, but do you have larger group experience and small group together on those nights, Wednesday and Thursday? And so it's all on site at a location, I guess?
Yes, all on site, all on location there. All on Wednesday night for middle school, all on Thursday nights for high school. So
okay, that's what I thought. And then during the summer, you in the past had taken a break, and so that's what we're going to talk about, is like what you do now. But what did you used to do in summer, say 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, vacation more. No.
Yeah. So why would you change that? I mean,
yeah. So we used to do, for both middle school and high school, we used to do small events here or there, or we would start off our summer and we'd do something called 180, and it'd be a water fight or a food fight. I don't know why we always want to fight, but we were. Water fight, food fight, paint nights, anything like that. And so for a few weeks, and then it would kind of take a break for a few weeks there right in July. And we do a local mission trip around here. And we come back, and August was kind of a downtime. We really did not do much in August. And I'd say all in all, we probably had 6 things that we would do. In high school, it'd be maybe the same amount of things, a few more mission trips, but again, one larger one, a few more smaller ones, because you're going out of country, or just, it's more conducive for a smaller team. And then same thing, maybe like 6 or 7 like connection points, if that August was kind of low in regards to doing anything intentional with them. And so that was kind of what we used to do. We have a middle school program. I didn't mention it, but it meets all throughout the year on Sunday mornings as well. We don't have anything for high school students on Sunday mornings, but that would meet throughout the summer as well still. It's more just worship service oriented. There's a few different facets of it that make it a little bit more unique, but that was pretty much it. That's what we used to do for our summers. So,
which isn't nothing. I mean, for some ministries, they do trips, because they might have that. Maybe there's a camp or whatever, like a week-long thing. But that, other than that, could largely be it. So you were doing something.
Yeah, we were doing some things, and I don't want to trivialize that which others were doing. I think if I was comparing it to what we did when we switched it a few years ago, I could see how the scales were a little tipped in the low side there. But yeah, there was still an intentional effort to minister and create opportunities for students and have fun with them, create memories and disciples. So yeah, there was some stuff going on.
So what led to the change? What led to the change, and what did you put in place, that's different now the last couple of years?
Yeah. So what led to the change? EJ Swanson.
Stinking EJ. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, if anyone has spent time with EJ, you know that he loves to dream big, and he loves to challenge. He loves to encourage. And so when EJ first came on staff here, when he was, he's in next gen doing 0 to 34 and beyond, he was doing student ministries. And so, he challenged us specifically at our campus and then, across the campuses with our team, that notion of why do we do less when students have far more time than ever to connect, to be discipled? Why do we let the momentum or opportunities for ministry kind of just sit on the sideline when there's a lot of options and opportunities out there for us to embrace? And so kind of just took a stick of dynamite and blew it up and said, all right, let's just dream, let's wipe the landscape clean, and even see what others are out there doing. And what it would look like to do a full summer long intentional ministry strategy for our middle school and high school students here.
Cool. And so what did that look like? What are some of the things that you put in place? Because I'm thinking of even our ministry, we've done some of that in the past too, where we said, okay, we pull back a lot. Let's try to add some things, create a schedule, all that. What did you do? And then maybe it's changed since you've done it now for 2 or 3 years. I think you said this is the third year, but what are some of the specific things that you put in place, and what was the result?
Yeah, definitely. So it has changed a bit as, we've learned throughout the years, and it has changed a little bit as we've learned throughout the years and want to, just shift and evaluate and everything. But it started with our first one called just 100 Days of Summer. And so we did 100 Days of Summer. And so it was the idea of having stuff 100 days, something just about every day. We didn't meet up or do an event every day. The consistent thing that we did throughout 100 days is we started a text message devotional that students opted into using the Remind app, and we scheduled out 100 days of text message devos. So students were able to opt in. It was very easy to do. We were able to troubleshoot pretty quickly anything that arose within the first day that was problematic. And so through that, though, we had kind of 3 different segments. The first segment was, hype, events, excitement. Summer is here. School year is done. We're excited for what God has in store. And then flowing that into service. We're going to have fun with the same energy that we have a great time with. We want to go after and serve the Lord and make an impact on our community. And then from there, focusing on relationship and building relationships and small groups and preparing for the school year. So kind of through that end of June, July with service, and then relationship building and preparing for the school year there in August. So the thing is that 100 Days of Summer begins in May when we did it. Yeah. And a lot of students are still in school. So we realized at first when we said, let's do 100 Days of Summer, and those first parts are supposed to be kind of hype. Well, really, we didn't have anything until until about day 25 outside of the text message Devo. And Devos are hype, but if you're trying to be real hype, you can't just get by for the first quarter of 100 days on a text message Devo. So, yeah. We did a social media campaign that worked out fairly well, where every Monday we posted out a picture, and students had to repost, use our hashtags, similar things, tag a friend, and whichever school and grade had the most shares of that photo, that Friday we would go to their school and we would give away something. So week 1 we gave away froyo. Week 2, we gave away donuts, and week 3, we gave away shaved ice, which is just the fancy way of saying snow cones. So So it actually worked out very, very well in it. We know that week one that we would have some skepticism in that, you see those giveaways and sometimes you wonder, is this legit? Is it actually good? Do they follow through on it? And it was kind of scary for us because we started it and then about Wednesday or Thursday, we had 2 schools that were still in the running and there were a lot of shares that surprisingly were coming in. And so we had to contact the principals to say, hey, this is what we've been doing. How do you feel about this? And they were very gracious in saying,
asking for forgiveness rather than permission. It sounds like.
Yeah, and that was one of those things that we didn't even think about until we got to that point of, oh yeah, how are we going to distribute these things? And so they were great. We champion it as a win for the school, even with sharing with the students when we went in that first Friday to their lunchtime and gave away all the froyo. It's so awesome that your principal let us come in here. He wanted to celebrate what you guys had done and how you came together as a class and, won this and everything. So really just took the win, and used it as a spotlight for them as a grade and as a school. We had the opportunity just to connect with students more through social media. And so a lot of those students at the first event that we did on the last day of school. And so it was an easy and silly not to kind of win to say, let's partner with the schools in this way, shine the spotlight back on them and those who are serving the kids in that way. So that went well for those 3 weeks. And that led right up into block parties that we did. So we strategically did it on the last day of school, and that first day of summer. As we know, many students are looking for something to do. There's stuff going on, but many students are still looking for something to do. And so called in a bunch of food trucks and inflatables, did a 3-on-3 tournament. We call it Octoball. I know some people call it Gaga Ball, but we did an Octoball tournament as well. Looked up to see if anybody else in the state of Michigan had done an Octoball tournament. And so no one had. So we said that you will be the state of Michigan Octoball champion if you win.
That's awesome. Nice.
And so it was neat. And trophies and all that stuff, bubble soccer. It was just a great night, just full-fledged summer hangout, just enjoy the fact that it has come. And so from there, we began doing something to connect students with on a weekly basis. It's called Tasty Thursdays. I'm one of those guys who love alliteration, so Tasty Thursday is where it's at. So we just meet up at a different restaurant. So we pick out where we want to meet up at. And that first year, there was 4 of us on staff, and so we would pick again the center of the compass here, being this campus, and go north, south, east, and west. And students would meet us up. We just have lunch with them. So just opportunity for us to have a relational connection with them. And they bring their money and buy their own lunch. We encourage small group leaders to come. We know many of them might be working, but we try to be in areas that many of them worked at. So that way, if they had an opportunity for lunch break to text a couple of their students and have them join them up there and meet us up there, we'd buy their lunch during that time. Some of them didn't want us to, and some of them, I think, showed up for the free lunch, but I can't blame them. They're college kids.
Yeah, that's okay.
We're here to bless. So, but it was awesome. We did that all throughout the summer. It took, a week or 2 off during a mission trip and during 4th of July week, but, and just different events from there, pool parties. Sometimes that's what we do for a Tasty Thursday is as opposed to going to a restaurant, we would just go to someone's house for a pool party, and make that, I know sometimes that's like an event. Like the event that we're going to do, we're going to go to so-and-so's house for a pool party. So it's kind of neat to make even just what was a predictable rhythm of getting lunch together, the event within that. Like, hey, we're already getting lunch together. Why don't we just order pizza? You guys bring a few bucks and we'll go swimming, or we'll go to someone's lake and we'll go swimming after waiting a half hour. But we want to be responsible.
Nice.
So that's kind of what it looked like throughout the summer, that first half there. And then near the end of June, we do our kids camp here. So a lot of our students serve in that, and it's a half-day camp. And so we do something with them right afterwards, and continue to do that because they're already here. And so one of the days we buy popsicles for all the volunteers. And so student ministries just kind of host popsicles on the patio. some alliteration again.
I can see you named all
right
these.
There on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a lot of time. Right there on the back porch, just to bless them and spend time with our students. And then one day we load up and we head to a beach. One day we began doing this where we noticed that back in our former model that we would do these series of events on a Wednesday night in June. And one Wednesday night, we would always have a low attendance. We'd see a lot of students, and then not like a drop off about 40%. And it's because we have a local fireworks show, in which about 100,000, 200,000 people go to, and our students were going to that. And so we'd spend all this time and energy trying to pull off an event, and realize all of our people are at the fireworks. So we just go to the fireworks. We get there early. We order a large balloon from Party City that's about like 5 feet in diameter, and we float it up about 100 feet in the air, so that way people can find us. And we just get there early. We lay down about 10, 15 blankets and tarps and so on, buy a bunch of bottled water and snacks. And families know this is where we're at. Come and hang out with us. And it's been neat throughout the years. We have probably like 300-400 people at times who come and sit with us from Woodside, or stop by and say hello because they see the balloon. They know that we're there. And just we saw more traction at that and more opportunity to spend time with them, as opposed to kind of pull them away where mom and dad might want to go to the fireworks and kid wants to go to the event at the church and so on. So yeah, that all leads up into our mission trip that we would do. Like I said, we do a big local domestic trip here in the city of Detroit. We partner with our campuses in Detroit and Pontiac, the Dream Centers we have, also different organizations that we already partner with as a church. And that kids camp that we run in the end of June, a lot of our campuses run them that same time. And some of our other campuses run theirs during our mission trip, and our students help run their campuses. A lot of our campuses that are newer or that are launching or that are at our dream centers and so on, our students will go and help run their flip camps there throughout the summer. And that's when we do some of our other mission trips for our high school students. We work with a special needs camp every year in which students go and serve as counselors at. This year we're sending a team of students to Uganda. And so a lot of that time is just service projects, service oriented and mission trips there, from that end of June to July, while still doing some relational connections, with Tasty Thursdays and so on. And then in August, just some of those classic events. And, that first year that we did it, we would do some of those bigger events of like a water fight, a paint party, sort of thing, with an emphasis and onus on inviting your friends out. And we do some that were just like, we do a one-day conference where it would be a specific topic in which we'd focus on. And we do some sessions, some worship, some workshops. Last year was on evangelism. Because of our shift in our summer programming, we've actually been shifting our expectation for small group leaders as well, where it used to be a school year commitment, September to May. And this past April, asked them to commit to May to May. So May 17 to May 18 as a small group leader. And so they have commitments even more so this upcoming summer to be intentionally involved, as many of them already are, but to continue to build on those relationships that they've already formed with their students throughout the year. So yeah, that's kind of what it's looked like there, that first year especially. And we've tweaked some things since then, but it's been fun. 100 days of summer. We still kind of joke about it.
Yeah, that doesn't,
like 1,000 days of summer.
Exactly. As a staff person, it doesn't exactly sound exciting, because you think about all that you have to do. Now, some of it, like you said, is devotionals and things like that. But still, there was a lot that you had in there. When do kids go back to school there? Is that more of a late August, early September, or is it early August?
It is after Labor Day. A majority of students go right after Labor Day. Christian schools are going back about mid-August or so, but the majority of them are after Labor Day. Yeah,
we're the same way. And I know in the South they get out usually after Memorial Day and then go back early August. So what was the impact of some of these things? Like even the devotional, the text devotional, how well did it work? Did you have a way to even know how well it worked other than just hearing, them talk about it?
Yeah. We had about, I would say about just over 500 students who had opted into that text message devotional, and I heard great things back in regards to personal feedback. We weren't able to get any sort of like analytics or anything on it. But it's interesting because we just did it initially through the summer. And I would hear from students about a month and a half into the school year, I really missed that text message diva. I loved having that come to my phone every day. It was encouraging. It was great. So heard a lot of great stories there from students throughout the year, and throughout the summer as well. So that went well. I mean, we saw a great turnout and great response from students and families alike. Families loved that we had more opportunities for their students to stay connected to their friends and to their church community here throughout the summer, especially for our high school students. Like I said, we have a predictable program on Sunday mornings with our middle school students, and high school students are a part of our main service. But if you're out of town, you're not seeing your friends, so on and so forth, where middle school student, you might be out of town 1 week, but then that program is happening again the next week. It gave an opportunity for all of our students to feel more connected to what we had going on here, and just give us more intentional opportunity to, again, pour into them, disciple them, minister to them. And so a lot of it was also just seeing it as intentionality. Like I said, a Tasty Thursday, it's the planning out. And we've since shifted that. It did kind of put a burden when we were going to 4 different spots, and we kind of saw that. And sometimes we'd roll up and there'd just be us and 2 students, which was awesome. Yeah. Being able to spend that time with them. And since then, we just do one location. And we've kind of since then centralized it. A lot of students and their families are already used to coming this way, and it wasn't a burden for them to, if we're going a mile north or south or whatever from the church, to be like, okay, yeah, we'll meet you guys up there for lunch. And it's been neat too, because some parents stay and hang out, and not in the hovering sense, but just that they're in one section of the restaurant getting lunch with other moms or dads or whatever. We're able to go and partner with them and talk with them and catch up with them. And we've seen a great response with that with students. And some of it's just that intentionality, like, hey, we can do this, and just someone's going to open up their pool and we can go there, or we can just go down to the street to to Chipotle or whatever. And so it's been neat, in the good response there. And like I said, we've shifted up things a bit throughout the summer and over the past few years, both on the campus level and like across the campuses on a multi-site level, as to how we operate with that as a team. So, yeah.
What do you think has been the best part? Like you did all these different things, and block parties and devotionals and all that. What has worked the best? And I guess there could be different filters for that. Is it connection? Is it helping them take steps? I don't know, but just generally speaking, if I said what had the most traction, what would you say?
Yeah, that is a very good question. I think the cultural thing, the identity for the ministry, the thing that's been the greatest benefit has been the greater sense of community that it's created amongst our students, and feeling connected. We haven't seen as much of that lull of getting them reacclimated and readjusted when it comes to their involvement in student ministries when the school year begins. They're excited to be back. They're excited to be back with their small group leader, and they've seen their small group leader still throughout the summer. They've seen their friends here throughout the summer. So I think the greater sense of community and the feeling like we're a part of something, and I'm a part of this church, I'm actually a part of these ministries here, has been one of the biggest benefits. A biggest benefit in regards as well with leaders. And I think sometimes we are hesitant to raise the bar or raise an expectation or to challenge, because we also live and operate with an intention that they are volunteers and they have their own families and their schedules, and we want to be respectful and mindful of that. But at the same time, we want to. I've found out that a lot of them they want more opportunity. They want that challenge to serve these students, to serve within the ministry. And so, we always are gracious and flexible. And I've had some leaders in regards to the expectations for this upcoming summer, share, hey, I'm not sure about this. What are your thoughts here? And it is always going to work out, because I know their hearts and their desire to want to be a part of what God is doing here and what God has burdened them with and being a small group leader. So I think those are two of the biggest just cultural, in what shapes our culture here, as a student ministry. Those have been two of the biggest wins that I've seen thus far. We could call it a program. But I think the biggest thing that we've seen in regards to success has been our week-long local mission trip. And that has shifted too throughout the years. This is our second year of staying at a local college and being combined middle school and high school. They still serve on specific teams. Middle school students serve in one area, high school students serve in another area. But our students are excited about that week. We have a lot of students who are going to be on a mission trip the week and a half before, and they've already signed up to be a part of that trip as well, because they are excited for the opportunity to be the hands and feet of Christ in their local community, and just that opportunity to be together with a large portion of their community here as well. So this year, I think one of the biggest shifts we've had is that we're not doing any of those, outside of one, we're not doing any crazy large scale, hype, paint party, water wars sort of event. We've just seen that. We've done them for however long, and there's just not as much of, I guess, a return on investment, as much as that phrase kind of makes me cringe a little bit. There's just, it's a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of resources. And I feel like there's things that we are striving to do or trying to do this upcoming year that will prove more fruitful and beneficial in regards to strengthening that community of believers here with middle school and high school students and leaders and families, as well as just deepen their understanding of the great purpose that they have as followers of Christ. And living out that calling. So, those have been some things that we've learned and some of the wins throughout this shift in our summer ministries. So
that's probably you're learning about the big events and only doing one, and not getting enough return on investment. Generally speaking, I feel like we've seen this too in the summer, especially, that maybe the biggest bang for your buck is the relational stuff. That more relational things as opposed to bigger events. And those events are good, but you probably, especially during the summertime when schedules are all over the place, because I don't even know if this was your experience, when you did the big events, attendance may not have been anything like you wanted, but if you're doing the smaller relational events, that, big attendance isn't even necessary. It's about deepening existing relationships, and you can do that more with, more smaller things than you can with one big thing.
Yeah, and that's exactly for something. It was interesting in the last 2 years. We used to do these individual middle school, high school, like a paint party, so to say. And the last 2 years we had combined them, and they were separate still. We put them on a rotation, and sixth graders went to this station, seventh graders went to this, and eighth grade, and they rotated every few minutes and everything, so on. But beforehand, you'd go down the line, and you take a picture of all the sixth graders in their white t-shirts, got paint all over them and so on. And we had 66 graders. And then you go down the line and you'd be and there's 16 seniors. You're like, I think they might be tired of doing this.
Yeah.
So, and that's, again, just there be a good amount or a decent amount of students here at times, but you're just there's if we take the same time and energy and effort, and didn't try so hard, or just did, more bonfires in somebody's backyard where we grabbed some guitars and just did worship, and leaders were there, and we just hung out and played volleyball in the back and just spent time, that creates a greater sense of community and intentionality with the student. We still want to have fun, and we do. We'll have some sort of those events this summer that are conducive to that. But your recent interview with Hutch, and I think he said that we were eventing ourselves to death.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I resonate with that. I very much resonate with that. So,
and I think that's more of an issue, or not more of an issue, but easier to do in student ministry than anywhere else. Cause I don't know. It's just, there's more opportunity for events. They can give you, they done well and with the right rhythm, events in student ministry can help a lot more than maybe even other ministries. Students do want to get together. I mean, there's just a natural thing for that, but it makes it one of the easiest places to, like he said, event yourself to death. And at the end, not really have made it the kind of difference that you want, except be really, really tired. But the relational stuff, I feel like that is where you're right. I mean, like, just like EJ said, they do have more time in the summer. And so that is a great time to connect and tap into that.
Yeah, and it provides even a greater environment for perhaps some students having a mix of both. I think throughout this upcoming year we'll have 4 large scale sort of events, so 1 a quarter, essentially. And for some of those students, it's a great experience for them to have that entry point into the church where it's just a fun environment. They're coming with a friend and they're connecting or meeting with other people. But I've even seen sometimes with some of our students, our high school students, where on those relational events, we are just spending time in the backyard with somebody or going out and getting lunch, that they're more apt to bring a friend because it just seems more low key. And they know the 4 or 5 other people who might also be there that they want to connect them with, or they've already spent time with each other, last week when they all went to the fair or went to the fireworks or whatever. So, which then gives us or small group leaders great opportunity to get to connect with their friends who may not generally throughout the school year come to a church setting. And I realized that even more. We did a survey with our students at the end of this past year, which is always beneficial to do. And that was one of the questions we asked. Our high school ministry is called Wake. It's like, why, what keeps you from inviting your friends to Wake? And some of them are like, oh, my friends would never talk to me again if I tried to invite them to church. And so but they feel like, I wouldn't invite my friend to a hangout. I wouldn't invite my friend to a bonfire. They would come to something like that. They might even come to something like a block party. So I think that's just telling for us to know as we look to that upcoming year and we shape and we think of, oh, this is what students want. But we're looking to help them reach out to their friends as well. How are we best setting them up to be able to do so?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's a big part. Like, not only do our students have a bunch of time this summer, so do their friends. And what a great opportunity for us to be able to connect with them and hopes that, they're able to get connected with the church.
So for anybody that, they're listening, they have more questions, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, feel free to email me. It's Joe Crabb at woodsidebible.org, and that's with 2 B's. I have no affiliation with Joe's Crab Shack, the failed seafood restaurant, although I think my picture was in 1 or 2 of them before. So,
nice.
But feel free to email me. Connect with me on my blog as well. It's joecrabb.com. I wrote a little bit about what we've done in regards to our small group leaders and expectations for out the summer, and just what small group leader expectation looks like and how it's been shaped a little bit through what we've done through our summer. And currently writing one on alignment in regards to multi-site and campuses and so on. And again, some of that is shaped through what we're doing this upcoming summer and how giving ownership to those campuses and some of the stuff we even talked about earlier before we started recording about having those guys in on the creative process and the decision-making process across our team here. So, please check it out now. I'm trying to get into that rhythm and discipline of writing more often. So.
Yeah, it's hard. We'll have to do another talk
with me. Yeah,
we'll have to do another talk about how you do the multi-site stuff, but that'd be good. So we'll link to anything in the show notes and, link to your site and social and all that. People can follow up, but I really appreciate you taking the time to share. And, I love that you're experimenting with summer and different ways to connect with students. And we definitely appreciate you coming on the podcast to talk to us about what that's been like and what you've learned.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for your ministry and for the opportunity to be able to share with others out there about what God is doing in and through us here at Woodside. So I very much appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe.
All right, take care.
100 days of summer. That's pretty aggressive, isn't it? I love how they are just doing everything they can to connect with students in a time when students clearly have more free time. The devotional idea, since I interviewed Joe, we actually took this and we're doing this with our students. We've done it a few different times in different ways, but we felt like it'd be helpful to jump in and read the same thing together this summer, because we do, like many of you, I imagine, pull back our programming in the summer. So here's some action items I had coming out of here. One is to take one idea from what Joe talked about and try it this summer. Maybe you have a great summer plan already in place. That's awesome. If not, even if you're listening and you lead children's ministry and you were just trying to listen for some ideas of what to do, there are some things you could take, I'm sure, from what they're doing and try one of those things this summer. Another action item, I think, is to lean into the relational opportunities more than the big scheduled events. I mean, you heard Joe talk about that and the impact of that. Plus, I think that's easier to add on and do rather than maybe wear yourself out this summer. I don't know about you, but when I heard 100 days of summer, I thought, oh, wow. And I'm sure he thought the same thing too. But to take one of those things and try it and make sure it leans into relationships and building that, I think would be really helpful. You can get all the show notes and the documents that Joe shared that kind of outline the plan at nickblevins.com/episode 58. So go ahead there and download those. I hope they'll be helpful to you. In the next episode of the podcast, I interview Ellen Stumbo, and Ellen and I talk about how to best serve families with disabilities. Whether your church does that well right now or not, it's a great conversation. Ellen shares her experience and working with churches, but also her own experience in their family, and gives us practical tips for how to put that in place if it is something that's new. She kind of gives a framework there and some principles. I love the principles she shares. And then she also shares specific ideas, practical things that you can do in your church to better serve families with disabilities. So you don't want to miss that. And I'll see you in that next episode of the Family Ministry Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Nick Blevins Family Ministry Podcast. We hope this helps you maximize your church's potential. We would love to hear stories of how you apply what you've learned. You can do that by leaving a comment on iTunes or in the show notes at nickblevins.com.